We're delighted to welcome the one and only Rory Lawson and Shane Horgan. It's going to be all things Scotland and Ireland.
To finish against Australia with the win of that nature, Murrayfield was absolutely bouncing.
It was the key thing that came out of that game was how good Scotland are at passing when they get it right across the back line. Like, phenomenal.
What do you need to see this weekend against Australia to put you in a good space?
I'd like to see a return to the level of discipline that Ireland have built their foundations of their game on, being super accurate at the breakdown, retaining possession and being effective with it.
We're going to pick a Scotland-Ireland hybrid 15 for the British and Irish Lions. So your loose head is either Piers Schumann or Andrew Porter.
Well, I don't think there's a question there.
Schumann?
You can have one
Jones.
each. You
is
can
it
have
Aki and Jones? Or is it Tuipulotu and
No,
Ringrose?
because I like the balance of those. So I think
What 10 might we pick?
There's an argument that says you've got to keep 10, 12, 13 together.
This is a wonderfully civilised selection.
Yeah.
There's a little teacup being thrown inside.
Into the final moments, Alex Payne trying to keep this side going forward. Haskell takes it on now with just relentless chat, largely about himself. And there's Tyndall to add the finishing touch of glamour and World Cup winning stories. That is how you podcast.
3, 2, 1, away we go. Hello Dream Team, welcome along to this week's episode of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby, proudly sponsored by Continental Tyres. Our go-to for premium tyres at Continental. Safety, performance and grip are the name of the game. The complete opposite of this unpredictable show. We're never quite sure where the journey goes, so buckle up once again and enjoy the ride. Hopefully a little more peaceful this week than in shows past, because we're delighted to welcome the one and only Rory Lawson and Shane Horgan. A very warm welcome to both of you, because last week we did a bit of a deep dive into England and Wales. If you do want a bit more prime English beef, go and have a listen at the Quick Tap, which is where Alex Good and Charlie Morgan are breaking down England's autumn as an entirety. I do want to ask both of you actually as well about where you see England right now, but the main bulk of this show is going to be all things Scotland and Ireland. I'm going to start on a really curious tangent and come to you. The last time I saw an Ireland shirt and a Scotland shirt almost sort of blended into one was Bill's Best Bits.
Oh, actually blended into one. Yeah, there you go.
Do you remember that?
I think I've got one of those actually.
Have you
I think my
really?
dad played in one of those games, yeah.
England, Wales combined, and Scotland and Ireland combined.
Yeah, there you go.
And the best of is available on Bill's Best Bits.
When was
It
this?
is, yeah.
Well, it must have been in the 80s. Was it 80s?
80s, yeah. It would have been the 80s.
Centenary fixture, I think
yeah,
it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Is it Welsh centenary or something like that?
Yeah, it must have been something like that. But it was a great jersey. Quarters, yeah. And
Great
some
names.
unbelievable teams, great names. Imagine they brought that
Irvin,
back.
Dave Irwin. Can you imagine if that came back now? Would you ever vote
tidy
for that?
backline, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Scotland, Ireland at the moment.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
That'd be a hell of a team. Halfway towards the Lions 15 as well. How are you both? You all right? Have you had how's the autumn been as an Ireland connoisseur?
Oh, it feels unfulfilled as yet. There's
Welcome
another
to
week
the
to go. there's another week to go, and a lot of it will hang on the Australia game.
Yeah.
But so very, very disappointing against New Zealand. Probably as poor as Ireland have played in a very long time. Huge amount of unforced errors, especially just play that you don't expect from Ireland. Then got the sort of train back on the tracks a bit against Argentina, but still not particularly glamorous. Quite a high level of mistakes and huge issue with discipline. And that'd be 2 weeks in a row with discipline. So the penalty count was, I think it was 13-5 and 13-6, 2 weeks on the trot. And Farrell, who's very good at sort of analysing a game when they lose, he's quite, he's honest. He said the discipline was desperate, and it was. And then against Fiji last weekend, it was to say, oh, this is us again. We're back, feeling it. A lot of breaks, good handling, nice play, new Rockstar 10, which is probably the most exciting thing, and into this week against Australia. And thankfully, Scotland have given them a bit of a bloody nose, and we can finish them off with a boot.
Which is perfect. And that's exactly why the two of you are the perfect guests this week, because obviously Ireland are going into Australia, Scotland are just coming out of Australia, and everybody's now beginning to talk Australia off the back of what is coming up next summer with the Lions. You were at Murrayfield, you were co-commentating for TNT. Tell us how impressed you were with Scotland at the weekend, and how big a fixture it was actually as a sort of pivotal end to a year.
Yeah, it was massive. I think actually when you consider it on reflection, I think the Scotland team really managed the week well. It was a strange week up in Scotland. They did a team run in snow. We could find out yesterday a load of the Australians did a team run that having never seen snow before.
Wow.
So they arrived into Edinburgh and were hit by this storm. But I think Scotland in the week, Hugh Jones was asked up in an interview in the week about, how big this was for Scotland. And he says, well, we've said a lot about progress, and a result is going to show us whether we've progressed or not. We've spoken historically about progressing, and then we've not been able to back it up with performances. So what I think, off the back of the weekend, I think the score on Sunday was comprehensive. I think the performance Scotland were significantly better than Australia. Both sides left 2 or 3 shots out there. Both went for the corner loads and returned very little throughout the game. But I think it was a statement win for Scotland. Murrayfield was absolutely bouncing. 4 tries, some belters in there as well. And in a Lions year, I think for a number of those Scottish guys, winning against Australia and putting in a performance was a big statement.
What is the best performance of the autumn from a GB and Ireland side?
I think that one. Probably.
I thought you would say that. I just wondered if anything else.
And as I was watching it, well, Ireland haven't hit the heights that we know they can. They haven't been. Now that may change against Australia, and I think they'll take some of the constituent parts that we saw on display against Fiji, and hopefully moving into Australia game, that could be really beneficial. But as I was watching that Australia game, which I thought was incredibly enjoying, I was. And isn't it great to have Australia back as like a team that is?
So are they back?
Well, yeah, they're further down the road, way down the road than I thought they were. But as I was watching them in previous weeks, I was thinking about this mantra that Joe Schmidt had when he first came to Leinster. It was I want to make you into the best passing team in Europe. I remember we were all looking around the change room going, I think we are the best passing team, but we weren't. We weren't at a high enough level. And I think Scotland have shown at times, over the last number of years, that they're a very formidable passing team when they get it right. But I'm sure Joe will be trying to instill that into Australia. But it was the key thing that came out of that game was how good Scotland are at passing when they get it right across the back line. Like phenomenal. Like just the difference between a ball right in front, encouraging someone to run onto it, no matter what the depth is. Let's take the depth away because you can pass back and still run onto a forward. But to have a ball in front of a player that can run on, accept it early and transfer and do the same thing to the next player, and a ball that's caught slightly inside shoulder, and how it destroys all momentum.
Yeah.
And actually the aesthetic of rugby is horrible when you get inside shoulder balls. When you see a ball thrown out, and nobody does it better than Finn when he throws that ball. He insists that you run onto the ball because the nature he throws it. And the camera angle, you can always follow if you follow his hands beautifully, you see where it ends up. So that was the thing I took most away from it. Scotland now have, and to discredit their forwards, but they have a brilliant backline that is super confident and challenges their own skills. And when they get their passing right, they score tries. They just do.
And they've got X factor. They've got the ability. They've got game breakers in the team. Whether it's Darcy being able to create something out of nothing, like crawling through someone's legs and getting away as he did yesterday, leading to the Josh Bayliss try. That was X factor. You've got Duan, who's an unbelievable finisher, and picking up on Shaggy's comment around the handling. Blair Kinghorn, we ended up giving him player of the match yesterday. There were a few contenders, but his pass for Duhan's try, he was second receiver out. I think it was Finn to Sione to Finn to Blair, and Blair outside channel, but he took and gave this 15-meter pass right across the front, and it gave Duhan a one-on-one with Jake Gordon, I think the covering scrum half, and he doesn't need a second invite when it comes to that. He's going to finish. I think looping back to are the Wallabies back? I think Joe Schmidt came up here wanting to find out quite a lot about his squad. The importance of that win at Allianz Stadium against England was massive, because that showed that they can do something and get a result. They then went down and had a lot of fun in Cardiff. You saw Tom Wright's stats yesterday against Scotland versus against Wales. Scotland didn't give him the opportunities. He had an absolute field day against Wales. But yesterday, when you did look to the touchline, there were guys like Taniela Tupu. Obviously, Karevi was on the side, having been red carded from the Welsh game. So there are players there who are sat in the wings, and I think Joe Schmidt's finding out more about them. In the week, I genuinely believe he can see this team progressing. And the guys in their squad are talking about the brutal approach he takes. I'm sure Shaggy would have had first-hand insight to the standards he sets, the expectation he sets. But when he gets people on board, just how much that lifts everything. And I think he's progressing in a big way. They've still got game breakers in there. They maybe just need I think yesterday was the last test before the first test in the summer. Is that right? For the Wallabies?
Well, no, they've also got Ireland to come this weekend.
Ireland, yeah.
And then that's it. And they'll have a warm up ahead of the first test of the Lions. And that's it.
But that's a big lag. You got to generate momentum quick in that time. But I'm sure he'll be in and amongst all of the super squads trying to keep those standards at a maintainable level.
The other thing that's come out of this autumn, as if it needs to be restated, is the importance of breakdown. And South Africa, the way they clear out at ruck is just phenomenal. Ireland were off in the first couple of games, both in terms of resourcing, but also so they didn't get enough numbers there. They didn't get when the numbers were there, they weren't accurate enough for the breakdown, and that is something that never happens to South Africa. And listen, by the way, South Africa are intimidatingly good at the moment, and for a very long period into the future. This isn't like are they bouncing up and down from number 1 and number 3 in the world? They're not. Like, let's not have this conversation for a very long time. These are like number 1 by a long way. They're a long way ahead of everyone at the moment. I think they're phenomenal. They are impeccable at the breakdown and ferocious. I thought Scotland were good at the breakdown as well. So it's a component that's required. But I also know that Joe Schmidt will be nailing that, because it's a bedrock for what he did with Leinster and then what he did with Ireland. It was crucially important, that accuracy at the breakdown. You're violent, but you were pinpoint accurate. And if Australia develop that, because they're on a journey with that, then they become a much more live concern for everyone.
Just very quickly on the box, I want to obviously get more into Scotland and Ireland. Do you think they are set up for long-term dominance from now? I asked the question because if you look at Bongi Namambi, Malcolm Marks, they will be going into a third World Cup. Etzebeth will be a fourth. Khaleesi will be a third. Pollard will be a fourth. Creel will be a fourth. I mean, a lot of those guys have been around for a very long time, and I know they have got an extra layer for why they play for South Africa, and we've seen that in the fabulous documentaries. But can you sustain what they have for that long? Are the next generation coming through?
Well, you look
at
at their depth at the weekend. They just have a conveyor
belt
of talent.
But if you remove all of that experience, do you not then have to regrow that element within the team?
Listen, there may be an element of that, but it's in the absolute perfect sort of fertile ground for development. And I don't think it's all these guys drop out at once and then we have to find a new team. It'll be as they are now, evolving, and they've been doing that for quite a while. They've
used something like 55 players this autumn.
Yeah. So listen, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, sure. I also think their demise.
But
I think I'm just hoping. I think for the rest of the game.
Just you see Etzebeth at the weekend, where was it
playing like a 21-year-old?
Where his support line.
Inside the effort level was just
like how is he doing that? Like phenomenal, and it was so noticeable because he didn't drop off in any pace. I think was it Colby that was dropped the ball back inside him. It's like, how is he anywhere near this guy? And he was. They are
glad I tidied that up.
I think one of the big things, I mean, it's Rassie psychology.
Yes.
So spoke to Jesse Creel after that Springboks game up at Murrayfield, and he just said, look, Rassie has said to us as a squad, we want to be the 2 best teams in the world within this squad.
Right.
We don't know who our number 1s are. We don't know who our number 2s are. We have a squad here that can put together the 2 best, two teams that can win, can be the best team in the world. And I think, the psychology of that means even when you ring the changes, it's just another opportunity. And these guys understand they've got to step up.
And just the final point on them is they play the best type of rugby. And I know they're evolving their game at the moment, but when it comes to Championship, World Cup, Super what you call it, Rugby Championship rugby, where you have to win and it's all on the line, and you might have an emotionally draining game the week before, their style is best suited to that.
You can tell they're the big bad wolf right now, because a show about Scotland and Ireland has just drifted into the Springboks, and we're all here lauding them, as perhaps we should be. I was going to ask about Scotland, but actually, given we are talking about South Africa, should we just fly through the World Rugby Awards and probably doff our caps? So men's 15s Player of the Year, Pieter-Steph du Toit. Women's 15s Player of the Year, Ellie Kildunn. Congratulations to you. Men's 7s Player of the Year, Antoine Dupont. Women's 7s Player of the Year is Madison Levi of Australia. The men's 15s Breakthrough Player of the Year is Wallace Satiti. And what a season he has had. But I touch on the box when you look at the men's 15s Dream Team of the Year. Oxenchae, Malcolm Marks, Tyrrell Lomax of the All Blacks, Ebenet Sabeth, Tyg Byrne, Pablo Matera, Pieter-Steph du Toit, Caelan Doris of Ireland, Jamison Gibson Park at 9, Damien McKenzie, James Lowe, Damien Dialende, Jesse Creel, Cheslin Colby, Will Jordan. That's a hell of a team by anyone's reckoning.
Quite good.
Only 4 from the Northern Hemisphere. Tyg Byrne, Caelan Doris, Jamison Gibson Park, James Lowe. No complaints on that?
Well,
should there be more? Would you have twisted or stuck?
No, I think
with
it's
all
hard.
that?
It's hard to make a case, isn't it, for anybody from the Northern Hemisphere?
Finn Russell at 10? You're the chief of the fan club.
He would be in the mix. I think if you had your imagine how good they'd be even better Finn would be with those players around him.
I know.
It would be playing rugby on cheat mode.
Yeah, off you go. So, given we're talking, let's bounce back to Scotland. Given we're talking Scotland, one of the things I want to come on to is where are England and Steve Borthwick from an external point of view? How well is Gregor Townsend going to sleep this Christmas? Because 12 months ago, I reckon it was probably not a hugely enjoyable period in his coaching career, but now?
I think Gregor, the autumn, I think he'll be pleased with. He'll be frustrated by the scoreline and elements of that Springboks game, but he said after that, I would argue that could have been, in answer to your question, arguably the performance of the autumn from a Northern Hemisphere team for Scotland against South Africa rather than Australia. I thought Scotland were physically outstanding. They probably left 2 to 3 proper chances out there, which is, if you take them, it's a different game.
I'm kind of keen to understand where Scotland will be positioning themselves for the Six Nations off the back of this.
Great question. It's always, is this a year? Every single Six Nations we come in saying, is this their year?
Yeah.
So is this going to be, would you consider this a year for Scotland?
Last time we were live showing, I said Finn Russell Lions captain.
Yeah,
so
he's backing it up.
Who's to say not? Look, if you just reflect on the Australia game, and think about, would it be ridiculous to think about a handful of those Scotland players playing in a Lions test against the Wallabies? I don't think so.
Hold that thought. Our Continental Tires question of the week is, how many Scotland players go on a Lions tour? We were actually chatting before the show. I can see the entire backline from Sunday afternoon going.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I really could. I think, if you just go from Sunday afternoon, Ben White as scrum half there's some competition there, but not I don't think that, other than Jamison Gibson Park, I think he is the standout test scrum half for me in the Northern Hemisphere, aside from obviously Antoine Dupont, the only one who's eligible for the British and Irish Lions. I think Ben White is in the mix. He is
great
there.
Facilitator of others.
Finn is nailed on for me. He has to go on that. He has to go on that tour. He is so good. He is such a good rugby player, and I think the Lions tour to Australia could be his time. Sione Tuipulotu has to be in the mix, undoubtedly in the conversation.
Well, by the way, Centres is a nightmare.
Yep.
Centres is a nightmare.
There are going to be some very, very good players.
Really high profile, brilliant players who would perform brilliantly, not going to go on that tour.
Hugh Jones, just
classy.
It's so classy. He is so elusive. He's so quick. He's managed to he's really improved his defensive work that often people used to highlight. And then when you look at the back three, Duan Darcy and Blair Kinghorn, there's a lot to like about that.
Can we just have a quick... It's an affectionate nod to Blair Kinghorn, because again, we were nattering away before the show. There are some players who are born to be rugby players, and Prendergast looks to the manner born. And there are some who look like they've just stumbled out of the library into a pair of rugby boots and somehow are playing international rugby. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I think as players go, I'm not sure I can think of anybody who has progressed quite so much from the level at which they started in the professional game. I mean, he's absolutely owning Test match rugby now. He's won top 14 with Toulouse. He's won the European Cup with Toulouse. To the manner born, but sometimes with a bit of a smile, which is, I can't quite believe I'm doing what I'm doing. Is that fair, or have I got that totally wrong?
It's just been a joy to see that guy go and do what he does. And as an athlete, you know, he's a similar sort of build and size to, maybe doesn't carry quite the same bulk that you did in your prime.
That's post-playing, isn't it?
But he's, you know,
I have been eating more. So.
But he's 6'4". He's such a good footballer. He can play. He can play 10. He can play wing. He can play fullback, and he does all of them well.
On a Lions tour, that goes a long way. Hugely valuable. Yeah. Do you appreciate? Are you part of the Blair Kinghorn Appreciation Society?
Just as you were saying that, it's interesting. You look at an under-20s player, and they can go in different directions. And so I saw Jacob Stockdale. You might remember him.
Yeah. Try against the All Blacks.
Who came back this weekend to play for Ireland. Who you saw him was under 20, and I think Ireland got to the final of that under 20s World Cup. Thought this guy's going to be a rock star, and he was brought into Ireland. Had a brilliant couple of seasons, won a Grand Slam. He said brilliant try against the All Blacks, and fell off a cliff, and has been sort of clambering back there ever since. And similarly saw Prendergast, the new sort of Irish wonder kid at 10. He has been literally tipped to be Ireland's fly half since I'd say 16.
Really?
And, he was playing and winning for the Irish 20s only last year. He's a rock star. He's going to be a superstar. He's already been anointed by Farrell in sort of my book, and it's just how quickly he now takes over at Leinster, which is very, very tough on someone like Kieran Frawley. But as you said earlier on, sometimes a player just bursts onto the scene and you think, well, he's got it. Whatever it is, the way he carries himself on a pitch, even getting off the bus. We saw him, his first involvement was against Argentina, and they had a picture of him getting off the bus, and he just looked so
to the man born.
He just stuck, this is it. You knew that he's here to, he was there to take over. And I was watching the game with my wife, and anyway, I sort of flicked onto him at the end for a moment. I said, geez, he's a very good-looking fella as well. Sometimes you have to check yourself, am I right? So Emma said, just rewind that back. So rewind it back, and she goes, yeah,
he's got it.
He's got
it across the multitude of channels.
So he's got everything. He's got everything. And I can see him, if he continues, and, you always have these sort of, caveats, but if he continues, he could be an Irish 10 for 10 years. Now, the issue is he's got right into a massive fight. Crowley had sort of I'd say, average game against the All Blacks, but was really good against Argentina. A couple of sort of sloppy kicks right near the end of his involvement aside. He was maybe Ireland's best player. So hasn't gone anywhere, and his expectation is, I'm the man in possession. I'm not going to move. And you've got Frawley, who, after having this incredible last 20 against South Africa in the summer, literally won the game for Ireland almost single-handedly. Had a disaster 10 minutes off the bench against New Zealand, which I'm sure he was going to come on and win the game for Ireland. Or it was more than 10 minutes, nearly 20 minutes. And all of a sudden it looks as if he's at the back of the pack. Like a really exciting time for Ireland, that 10 area.
Yeah. Let's just quickly interject to bring you a message from American Express. We all know how tricky it can be to find the right work-life balance. Amex understands that it's essential to work hard and play hard, so we wanted to share a bit about the American Express business cards. With an Amex business card, you can earn points on your business transactions and then use those points to switch off and enjoy some downtime. For instance, you can earn points on everyday office purchases like furniture, a new laptop, or even your team days out, and then use those points to help you unwind or recharge. Whether it's a brand new set of DJ decks for Hask or some shiny new golf clubs for Tins, or even booking that once-in-a-lifetime trip to watch the Lions on tour in Australia, the American Express business cards help you achieve that perfect balance in life. For more information, search Amex Business Card. Terms and annual fees apply. 18+, subject to status. I want to ask both of you this question, and I'm actually not going to I was going to say you can plead the fifth, but how far ahead are Scotland at the moment than England and Wales?
Easy, Al. I know you want the party light.
Well, we've already tipped Scotland for the Six Nations, so let's just get them for the Calcutta Cup as well.
I always think it's really difficult to to carry lots from the autumn into the Six Nations. We know that the Six Nations is a standalone beast, whereby the attitude change, the familiarity is there. Everybody knows everybody that they're playing against. Typically, domestically, certainly outside of the Premiership, the teams know each other very well. And I think Scotland have elevated their ability to manage a game physically. I think there are still a couple of areas whereby the depth chart's a little bit light, particularly behind Xander Fagerson at tight head prop. If he got an injury, I think that would significantly compromise Scotland. Those are big shoes to fill. So Xander Fagerson he needs to be looked after and make sure that he's there. But I think Scotland are learning how to win big tests. I think they're physically aligning to it. I actually think the law changes or the amendments and the way that the laws are being managed by the officials has suited Scotland. Scotland want the lightning quick ball and the 3-second rucks. They want the ball in play time to be higher. And we see that particularly now with the breakdowns and the use it call for in that middle third with the kicking for scrum halves, which has put heat on the scrum halves. But it's opened up the game, I think, with regards to ball in play time, and I think that has suited Scotland. So, England, a couple of points either way. The width of the post against the All Blacks, bar the brilliance of the Wallabies in their other game, other loss there. It could be very different, and we know that they'll kick off well. I think with regards to Wales, they're the team that have got the biggest gap to bridge at the moment. Wales kicking off in France, kicking off the Six Nations in France on the Friday night. That's not the one that you want, is it?
No.
For to land on your lap. But for me, purely with a Scottish lens at the moment, there is a real optimism about where Scotland are going. I think they've got the ability to score tries. Steve Tandy will have been delighted by the defensive efforts, both against the box and then, to hold the Wallabies to 13 points, after they scored 96 combined against England and Wales, was a big nods to him.
Same question with regards to Ireland. I really ask it so that we can clip it up after England win in Dublin in round 1 of the Six Nations. But how far ahead do you think Ireland are of England at the moment and Wales?
It's hard to know where Ireland are legitimately at the moment. I think.
So what do you need to see? What do you need to see this weekend? Let's do that first.
Yeah.
What do you need to see this weekend against Australia to put you in a good space and give you a clear answer?
I'd like to see a return to the level of discipline that Ireland have built their foundations of their game on, which means below 10 penalties, but also not penalties anywhere. So there's this idea that you give a penalty in front of the posts for jumping over and grabbing the 9. It's like that's real indiscipline. But I'm talking about indiscipline when you're in the opposition 22 and you're not clinical on a clean out and they get in over the ball and they turn it over. That's kills teams, kills momentums, and it's equally as bad in my book, or maybe even worse. So back to the foundations of discipline. So being super accurate at the breakdown, retaining possession, and being effective with it. I'd like to see some of the play. I don't expect to see it in sort of as fulsome as we saw against Fiji, but playing inhibited rugby, which actually, and the perfect example of that is the try against Mac Hansen's try against Fiji, where we're deep in the 22. And they had a little loop play and then the kick over the top to Mac Hansen as a winger waiting for it untouched. And just before that play went ahead, as we were waiting for it, I was putting myself, because there's 14, as Mac Hansen was there, get the ball to Mac Hansen. I didn't think they would, because Ireland, under those circumstances, just jam in, around the corner. And they're successful in those circumstances, largely against the weaker teams. Then they struggle to do that against the best teams, because it's a difficult thing to do. But then, playing that slightly more expansive, less attritional game, in that area, I thought was really, really buoyed me. So the problem with Ireland is when they play their biggest, the biggest games against the biggest teams, they can go into their shell a little bit. And Ireland in their shell just, are, above average team. But so when Ireland are playing to their maximum, really challenging themselves, they can be really exceptional. So I'd like to see that, that more expansive play, people knowing their roles really well, and dragging the Aussies around and making them, putting them in a really uncomfortable position.
Farrell obviously starts as Lions head coach, I think, on the 1st of December. So I think it's Monday after this coming game. So Simon Easterby leads Ireland into the Six Nations. He's been there, he's done it. He's got O'Connell alongside him. There's no lack of experience there, but how big a change is that?
It's a really significant change. He's a very different character than Andy Farrell, and Andy Farrell is a unique character as well. I've never heard players speak about a coach quite the way they speak about him. Like
Farrell.
They admire him massively. It's admiration. They think he's not just a great guy, but a great person, a great man, and tactically aware and sort of emotionally adept as well. So he's kind of, he's on a pedestal. I don't think anybody, within the coaching team and with total respect to him, can recreate that. He's like
O'Connell?
I think O'Connell's a different individual. I think he is a slightly different individual. And listen, what's interesting is, does Simon Easterby, how does he see this? Is he all in on Farrell's vision and I'm continuing on this, or I see things slightly differently and I'm going to tweak things to how I would do it, and I'm not just performing what could be if it's a joint plan that they're all aligned with, then fine. But maybe it's not slightly. And then how does that affect things? And maybe the big question here, and how it might be answered, is what happens at 10? So it looks from the outside that Farrell is backing Prendergast or close to it, or certainly is keen to give him the opportunity here. All respect to Crowley, but that feels what it's like from the outside. How he speaks about Prendergast is like, he's how he'd speak about his son. Mind you, he's coached against his son. So, so there's that there. But is that shared by Easterby? And how will Prendergast be promoted otherwise in the Six Nations? That's the interesting story. I think. A lot of the structures, a lot of the the way Ireland play, there won't be massive change, and it will be a little bit of a holding. But Farrell might make a big call with someone like Prendergast at 10 for the opening game of the Six Nations, and he wouldn't be questioned on it because he's Farrell. That is slightly more difficult for Easterby, I think.
Questions?
Yeah.
Firstly, a very quick note from our friends at NordVPN, who are back and offering Good Bad Rugby listeners an exclusive deal. Did you know that if you're enjoying a holiday abroad or outside the UK on a business trip, you can switch your virtual location to back home so you can access your streaming services to catch all the action from the Autumn Nation series? I've actually been using mine recently because I'm going away post-Christmas on a surf and yoga retreat. That won't surprise you. I am taking the wife and kids as well, actually, just as a little bonus ball for them. I will be doing the surf, not the yoga. But it has been very helpful in getting the best prices to get ourselves out there. You travel quite a bit using yours?
I do. I'm a fan, actually. Yeah. Just, going away, it saves you having to go through the lack of hotel TV options when it comes to watching anything and so on.
Home comforts.
You get on that and you jump on and stream as you say, Alan.
Good.
I need to get on some of this travel stuff as well, actually, because apparently you can get some sneaky deals.
Very good deals. You're more of a sort of quill and ink man, aren't you, rather than the welcome to my world.
He calls a travel agent.
Is that all right?
You get my traveller's checks in my top
Yeah,
pocket.
exactly. You're still ringing Hello 2451?
No, yes, that was very much done at our house.
Yeah, exactly. We won't ask you for your NordVPN experiences. Just Rory and I who've got our fingers on the pulse of current technology.
Well, listen, send it my way. And
I will.
I'll give it a run out. I'm doing a bit of travelling next month, so
good.
Happy to try it out. I hear very good things.
Good, you do. Only on the Good, the Bad, and the Rugby. That's where the best of the NordVPN loving happens. To get the very best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/goodbadrugby. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and the link is in the podcast episode description box. Help yourself if that's your thing. Let's come on, as we said, to coaches under pressure. And I'm fascinated to get your 2 views on Steve Borthwick. And actually, just as a personal side, I went to England-Japan on Sunday, and I buy into there's a lot of hope. I buy into you've got to go through some pretty uncomfortable times to get to where you're trying to get to, and I think there is a lot of opportunity within this England squad and a young and inexperienced coaching group. Just as a total aside, and I sort of say it because we've bagged them in the past, I thought the match day experience at Twickenham was really, really good. And it's just got more energy, it's got better lighting, it's got great graphics, it's just got much more energy to it. And you sort of want to get into the stadium a bit earlier to see what's happening. And for me, and I watched it with my 12-year-old who was, taking all of it in. And I just thought it just sort of all feeds into the fact that I think, and there's some amazing stats around coaches who've won the World Cup having very dark periods before. I mean, there's all cacophony of noise around sacking Woodward and Jake White and, lots of other, Rassi Erasmus had a terrible record at some point going into 2019. I think 55% win record for a period. Do you look at England and think at the moment they just aren't the sum of their parts and you can't quite see where it's coming? Or do you look at England and think, oof, there's something building there? Or neither?
I always look at England and the quality of player that plays across the Prem. Sometimes I think it actually is the biggest challenge because the noise around it is often focused on who's missed out rather than who's in. And therefore, well, how do you actually build, who are the key people that you build your team around? When it comes to Steve Borthwick, and I wouldn't know him as a man, but if I was looking for a character, Shaggy talking about Andy Farrell, you can imagine him standing in a changing room and pulling people out of the depths if they were battling. From a Scottish perspective, you've got your Telfer and McGeechans who would have, and Lyons obviously perspective. You've got those people. Do I see that in Steve Borthwick? Is that now needed in that regard from a coach? I'm not sure. There's obviously been big disruption in the coaches around the coach, and I think if Steve Borthwick isn't the hype man and the energy man, you need to make sure that you've got people in there who are around him, who the players have a relationship with and who they trust. And I think that sometimes takes time because you've got to understand, talk about Joe Schmidt with the Wallabies. He's starting to build trust with the Wallabies now, but it's taken months of banging the drum about some of the things that he's investing in or that that he's asking the players to invest in that will return the rewards. For England at the moment, I'm sure they're giving a lot of the messages and they say that they're close, but at the core, you've got to start delivering these results to be able to generate that trust. So I can see the raw materials, the ingredients that you're trying to bake this England cake out of when it comes to the performance. And I don't think they're far away. They've got so many exciting players coming through. And, you saw it against the Japanese side who no one's going to measure a team with regards to where they might be at their best. But they were a couple of bits away from a couple of big results earlier in the autumn, which would have changed the narrative entirely. So I don't think it's Borthwick's time just yet.
I'd be keen to know what was the backstory with Felix Jones. That's never really been explained, has it?
I don't know. I mean, it is unusual and it hasn't been explained. But I think, and I'm not sure it ever will be necessary. I think it from an England perspective, and England, well, someone who is interested in England, with the crop of youngsters they've got and what they were beginning to do, it seems odd that two integral pieces would walk away 8 months into the job.
I think that was quite shocking for me. One, they took the job in the first. He took the job in the first position because he knew what he was getting into as well, and he wouldn't have been short of offers. I wouldn't imagine. Extremely successful with the Springboks, but I'd also say would have gone into it with his eyes open. So he would have done a huge amount of analysis on those England players and fringe England players to go, actually, what am I dealing with here? So what is my real opportunity? And the fact that he even went there, I think is a bit of a, I'm sure the salary had a factor, but he wasn't, I wouldn't say he's the type of person that's driven only by salary. And I think he would have seen that as a big opportunity so for him then to walk away, I think that must have been a dysfunctional environment. So that's always in the back of my mind. And when it comes to Borthwick and not being able 100%. To sort of, square that circle. What is encouraging is that England have a lot of good players. That's what we're seeing. And I think while they have been sort of genuinely unlucky. Now, when I say unlucky, they haven't helped themselves. They haven't finished off games properly. They haven't managed the game properly in a couple of occasions. But a lot of other stuff was going right and was really kind of, I suppose, had green shoots. And one of the other issues that was there for England was almost having too many players. So it's like the point with Ireland that our players can have, a few bad games because there's not really anyone else to pick. And they're given a little bit of grace, and therefore they build a continuity within the team, and they're used to playing international rugby, and then they develop as a result of that. I think that has been maybe an issue for England. So
but they've been as consistent as they can. But you think of Slade and Lawrence, who have now played. They played an entire year together.
I think there's an issue there around not knowing their full identity of the way they want to play as well.
Right.
I think that has existed. They've been sort of chopping and changing. So, I do think that sort of there's enough players have demonstrated that they're well able to play at a very high level of international rugby. The next piece, and it's the piece that has to be put together by Borthwick in the next Six Nations, is what is our true identity as an England team, and who are the key components to delivering that in the Six Nations and going with that. It's not a chop and change. It's not of a Wallaby or suck it and see, and we're trying to give more players time. It's actually time for delivery although a long way out from a World Cup. In terms of a World Cup cycle, this becomes a very important Six Nations, I think, for England.
And Al, I think just tying into that, the coaches, the assistant coaches, the strength conditioning, we've touched a little bit on the disruption of that. But if you put that into a business context and you've got a strategy built and you've got your chief exec there, but the other people around him shift and you've got new people coming into those roles, it takes time. And you're asking these players, there's perhaps no surprise that in the final quarters of the game that England need to see over the line, that with some new voices in there, some probably lack of clarity and lack of continuity, that they didn't manage to get the results. So I think there'll be a period now in the build up to the Six Nations that they'll need to stabilise, continue with the selection stability and, reward good performance in Europe and the Premiership before the Six Nations. But England have to be in the top half of the Six Nations table, if not the top two, to be viewed as any level of progress in the Six Nations.
The Six Nations is going to be carnage. An absolute
I know,
carnage. But that's what it should be.
But also every year, it's a unique competition. And you know how much I love it. I think it's above every other competition in the world. It's every year there's a really interesting or multiple interesting stories around it. Throwback to last year when Dupont missing for the games, and but our expectation of France in that opening weekend and what we thought we'd see from them, and actually being turned on their head, and then Ireland going to Twickenham, on a roll. Expectations of the Grand Slam was locked in after the some were saying that after the after the opening weekend in France, and a revitalized England sort of turning it on its head. And then, Scotland, as ever, it was going to be their year. So every year it turns out. It turns
well
up.
Practiced.
It turns out like a really interesting, fresh story. And, even the fact that we're talking about it now,
bring it on.
You can see it. You can see the stories have been created this autumn for just
and
after
then you
Christmas.
sprinkle the Lions into that. It just goes to another level.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you some breaking news on Good Bad Rugby because GBR is swapping sports, familiar shaped ball, but we are entering new territory because the Good, the Bad and the Rugby are teaming up once again with our friends at DAZN to bring you the ultimate American Thanksgiving experience. Are we ready? I hope so, because on Thursday the 28th of November, we are going to be live, would you believe, on NFL Game Pass, available exclusively on DAZN, as the Chicago Bears, repped by Tins, face off against the Detroit Lions. Looking good, Hask. They'll be delighted to have your support. And joining us are going to be former Atlanta Falcons tight end and current Gladiator, Alex Apollo Gray, and another very, very famous face from the world of NFL and rugby. We'll leave that one as a little surprise. See if you can guess who it is.
You're teasing us.
I am going to tease you. It's going to be an epic clash. We can't wait to dive into it with you. It's going to be a brilliant night. Your knowledge of the sport is unparalleled.
Well,
how much are you looking
compared
forward to it?
You two, it's probably unparalleled. But my quarterback, Caleb Williams, I wouldn't say that the Bears are my team. I'm going to adopt them for this team.
Yeah.
Coming off a tough loss at the Vikings, but we'll bounce back. I've been lucky enough to go to a few of the Wembley games. I do enjoy the American sport, so I'm quite looking forward to this.
Which of the two of you would have gone further had you had the call?
I would have been either a tight end or a linebacker. I would have liked absolutely nothing more than just my one sole purpose in life is to smoke people and smash them.
Right.
I was sort of a calling I should have had. I wished I'd gone to college in America. I'm the archetypal jock. I would have got the jacket. I'm like every bloke you've ever seen in a movie. My destiny should have been there. Instead, I was brought up in leafy Berkshire. And I failed at life, but in a future life, I'm going to come back as an NFL player and absolutely destroy it.
If you are an avid NFL fan, a casual viewer, or a complete novice like Hask, do join us for the ultimate American Thanksgiving experience on NFL Game Pass, available exclusively on
DAZN.
Very good. If that's not enough to tempt you, DAZN are offering an exclusive deal where you can watch a week's worth of games for just 99p.
Boom.
That is a bargain. Remember, NFL Game Pass on DAZN is the only place to catch every game from every team. Don't miss it. And we'll see you on Thursday.
DAZN for having a good time.
What does that mean?
DAZN.
Are you? No, you should have gone. Are you DAZN? Are you down?
Get in DAZN for having a good time.
Yeah, what they said.
Thank you. I'm going to finish this week's show with a totally impromptu idea, which is we're going to pick a Scotland-Ireland hybrid 15 for what could and should be a Scotland-Ireland, England-Wales selection match for the British and Irish Lions. Let's bring it back. Let's start it right here. Bill's best bits. We'll dust it off. And we'll get
There we
the
go.
old VHS
Brilliant.
recorder.
Love it.
I'm going to pick the Scotland team that played against Australia, and I'm going to pick the Ireland team that played against New Zealand. So your loose head is either Pierce Schumann or Andrew Porter.
Well, I don't think there's a question there.
Schumann.
I think Porter's our best player at the moment.
Well, yeah. I think he is outstanding. He is an outstanding player. Schumann, the work he gets through, he got done a couple of times against once at the scrum time against Australia, maybe once or twice against South Africa. So maybe Porter just gets the nudge based on set piece. But Schumann around the pitch is astonishing.
And a cult hero as well.
An absolute cult hero.
Okay, Porter gets the nod at loose head. You can have as your hooker, you can have Ewan Ashman or you can have Ronan Kelleher. Obviously, Ireland missing
Sheehan.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's go Ronan Kelleher because Sheehan isn't available.
I think I would go with Kelleher.
Kelleher.
Ashman, just a couple of arrows. Again, physically around the pitch. I think he put that tackle he put in on Eben Etzebeth, whereby he drove him back 5 or 6 meters, was a standout moment. But I just think arrows.
No Tig Furlong, so you've got Xander Fagerson or you've got Finlay Bealham.
Xander, for me, put his hand up for Lions over the Austin.
And listen, the other thing is when Tig is fit, Tig is properly world class. He's getting on a bit, but he's a prop. So they can drag it out a little bit longer. I'd really like to see him back. See him back for the Six Nations and a run without injuries. He's had a few nigglies over the last while.
Grant Gilchrist or Joe McCarthy?
Joe has been a revelation since he's come into Ireland. He is at his best. He reminds me of kind of a South African second row. He's very, very big. And that's the reason he got elevated to Ireland so quickly. Big carrier, can offload. He's not the finished package by any means. And he has to be, he needs to refine himself if he's looking at a line selection, because penalties, few too many drop balls, like discipline isn't, he's a penalty a game man, almost certainly. And he needs to refine that. But I think this is an area that Ireland are very strong.
Close, but I'll give you that one.
Okay, and then you can have Scott Cummings or James Ryan.
Scott Cummings is incredibly industrious, works very hard, physical, gets around the place, good skills as well. But maybe just James Ryan, just on his experience and leadership in there.
Yeah, he is. He's a big voice for Ireland. There's no doubt about that.
Is he back to his best?
Yeah, he's not far
dropped off a little bit.
Yeah, he did, and then he came back again, and I think he was kind of hurt by a couple of performances and selection, and he's back at it again. The other question is, someone like Tig Byrne, who was
he's your blind side. You got Tig Byrne or Jamie Ritchie at 6.
He was the blind side, but he went
into second row.
I think he's in the world. Is he the World Player of the Year as a second row? Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I think he was. Yes.
Yeah, and that's so and
he was.
I really like him in that role as well.
So do you want to take out James Roddick?
No, I don't think we can do that. Is that
I think we might
do
have
you
to.
like? Shane, you're chairman of selectors. It's your team.
Yeah, go on. I would throw. I like Tig as a second row, not because he's not brilliant at the back row, which he is, but
gives you an extra.
It just brings you an extra everything, and he's incredible over the ball as well.
And it slots Matt Fagerson straight into that 6.
Well, so you've now got a back row of Jamie Ritchie, Rory Darge, Matt Fagerson, or you can have Josh van der Vliek or Caelan Doris. So pick 3 of the 5.
I think Doris
or O'Mahony, who came off the bench.
Doris at 8.
Doris at 8. Any
Doris
debate?
at 8. I'm not going to contest that. I would put Fagerson at 6.
Matt Fagerson at 6.
I'll give you that. because I've taken Tig into the second row.
So you've got Van der Vliet or Rory Darge.
Darge. I mean, both outstanding.
Darge gets through a lot of work.
I mean, Rory Darge he loves it. I spent a bit of time with him doing a one-on-one before the Aussie game. What a leader at 24 years old, loves the physical stuff. He loves getting in amongst it, talks incredibly well. I mean, Josh van der Vliet, purely based on the Instagram thing I saw him as a golfer.
Yeah,
is there anything he can
He's not
do?
one of those, is he?
Oh, I mean, it was shockingly good.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches at 7.
I would say Rory Darge is maybe the key component in Scotland going to the next level. I think he's a remarkable player. Leadership from, he was under 20s captain, wasn't he, the whole way through. So industrious, such a high work rate, very limited error count as well. Not dissimilar to Van der Vliet in many ways, actually.
Isn't Van der Vliet a former World Player of the Year?
He was,
last
year.
Yeah. Was it last year?
Was it last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
Last year, was it?
Yeah, so maybe, just based on that.
So is it the World Player of the Year of yesteryear, or the man who's making Scotland go a new direction? This is a wonderfully civilised selection.
Yeah.
It's not a teacup being thrown inside.
Listen, I'm
happy.
I'm happy in ambition. I would say, I'm happy to give you Rory Darge.
Horse trading.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, 9, Jamison Gibson Park or Ben White?
I'll go Gibson Park purely. I mean, he's the heartbeat of Ireland. I think Ben White played the Box and Australia, didn't play the other 2. He's coming onto a game though.
Yeah, listen, Gibson Park consistently one of Ireland's maybe top 3 performers over the last 3 to 4 years. Heartbeat of the team as well. I actually like Ireland better when they play more off 10 than when they play off 9. But having that mix, that's a tactical decision. That's not a Gibson Park decision. So I think, and if we pick the 10 that I think we might pick, I'd want a lot of our play coming off 10.
What 10 might we pick? Surprise me. You can have Finn, or you can have Crowley, Frawley, or Prendergast, or Sexton and O'Gara. By Gibson.
All the way back, all the way. Ollie Campbell.
Yeah. I mean, Finn for me is World 15 fly half.
Can I say one thing? I love 10s that score tries. I've got what's the opposite of an ick? It's like a sort of, like a really curious,
positively
predisposed.
predisposed.
I love.
You got the horn,
not Peter Horn, no. But I've always loved fly halves that score tries.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm on my
why are you saying because Crowley
grew up on the diet of Rob Andrew, who didn't score many tries, and Stuart Barnes.
And Finn's try against Australia was a belting
lovely
try.
line. Yeah,
it was a great try.
Yeah.
And, Carter scored good tries. Larkham scored.
It's I also love watching Finn play. So
Carlos.
if you also think about why you like rugby and what's joyous about it, it's Finn and the way he plays. And I think he is ahead of all those at the moment. Listen, this, as I keep on telling you, we've got this boy coming up, Prendergast, but at the moment
he's not here yet.
But he's certainly not at Finn's level yet.
Okay, centres, Sione Tuipulotu or Hugh Jones, and the Ireland-New Zealand centre combo were Bundy Aki and Gary Ringrose. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Aki and Tuipulotu are similar sort of players, both incredible power, good footwork, good defenders. I mean, there's an argument that says you've got to keep 10, 12, 13 together.
Very good.
In here. Because
Not in this one,
there is
I
a key
was so
here.
civilised in that back row. I was so civilised.
He's very Scottish there. Just take it. Take the goodwill and take more.
I mean, I think Hugh Jones gets the nod at 13 for me.
What, Gary Ringrose?
Yeah.
Oof.
I think he does.
Oof. Okay.
I think
that?
he
No, I'm not, actually.
No, all right.
So I'm going to be militant in this area.
Right. You're going to take it back.
And, Sione going into the autumn and probably coming out of the autumn was being spoken about as being one of the form players.
Lovely moment with his granny
in
as
Europe.
well.
It was.
Brilliant.
Exactly.
That's what we need a bit more of.
Yeah, that was golden.
And the try.
Ringrose is a hugely underestimated component in Ireland playing at their best. Like defensively, he makes incredible reads. He is, a really good link player as well. And then you've got Bundy Aki, who's been Ireland's best.
These are just tributes. I want selections.
But Bundy Aki's been Ireland's best player for at least 2 years. In the lead up to the World Cup, through the World Cup, he was like, I think he was on the team of the World Cup at centre. And he's a top player. I can't not pick Bundy Aki at 12. It's impossible at the moment. And by the way, Henshaw would make a good case for being being in either of those two positions.
Yeah.
I mean,
good game's a quick game.
Tuipulotu. But if it
you've got to pick.
Is it Aki and Jones? Is it Aki and Jones, or is it Tuipulotu and
No,
Ringrose?
because I like the balance of those. I think I'm going for the two. I think marginally. I think you can't not pick Bundy Aki. He's been so
Aki
good.
and Jones.
Well, you're leaving out Gary Ringrose. Do you want to play rock paper scissors?
Yeah, go on. I'll do that. Go on.
It's a good way to settle it. 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
so Aki and Jones it is.
Can't believe it.
I mean, Tuipulotu and Jones.
No.
Yeah, no. Aki and Jones. But that's very hard on Tuipulotu and Ringrose.
It is, yeah. But that is going to be incredibly interesting.
Good luck, Andy Farrell.
Good luck, Andy Farrell.
I mean, that's
right.
yeah.
And then your back three. So who have we got? Scotland against Australia. You've got Doohan, Darcy, and Blair Kinghorn. And Ireland against New Zealand was James Lowe, Matt Hansen, and Hugo Keenan. Again.
That is embarrassment of riches.
Do you know, I think every single one of the players we've mentioned in the back lines could go in the summer.
Yeah. Plus
Marcus Smith.
Henshaw.
Plus Henshaw.
Honestly. That the centre is ridiculous. But also back three is getting to be really, really good as well.
Yeah.
And
if you take Blair Kinghorn, you don't need another fly half.
Exactly.
It's for Sami Payno.
Cover them all.
So go on. James Lowe at 11.
James Lowe is at 11.
Yeah.
Right. That's
ahead
of Doohan?
Yeah. I think he's a more complete footballer.
Okay. James Lowe.
There's a strong counter argument, but
But
James Lowe's kicking game in the backfield exit area is.
Would you go Lowe and Doohan, or is that too much? Do you want a Darcy or?
I think you could go Lowe and Doohan.
And that's big as well.
It's a big set of wingers.
Yeah.
Well, Mac Hansen
with unbelievable
finishing. So much ball in the hand.
Yeah, he's good in the air. Although I do like it, he just for the tries, individual tries he can score. You'd want him on the pitch.
How good?
Like it depends also what type of game they're playing as well. Maybe we're going slightly too deep here.
Yeah.
But in terms of
this is about a 90-second social media.
Yeah.
But we're taking 2.5 hours today.
Yeah.
So do you want to go James Lowe and Doohan, or do you want to stick in a Mac or a Darcy?
How do we go at what's our
who's your
fullback?
15?
Who's your 15?
Let's do 50. Hugo Keenan or Blair Kinghorn?
I just think
we've come this far with Blair.
No, I know. Blair Kinghorn is my guy. I just think he is.
Do you think will Farrell select him? Do you think Farrell will select him? Based on not his,
I think he'll go as a tourist.
Not his utility. Would he be looking at him?
But I think you need players who are utility on a Lions tour. You need people who can back up Saturday to Wednesday, and we'll do you a shift at 15 and then move to the wing.
Yeah, but he's not going to take him as a 10 option unless called upon. But I think having a full
10 on Lions tour.
Yeah, he did. Having a fullback wing on that tour. Blair Kinghorn is so comfortable in both of them. He would be my 15.
Okay, you can take 15, and then I'll take the two wings. I'll take Mac Hansen as well. On the other
So you
wing.
want James Lowe and Mac Hansen? That's been a very politically...
I'm not sure, by the way, if I agree with any of these, really.
Shall I go back through your team?
Yeah, go on.
Porter Kelleher Fagerson, Joe McCarthy, Tyg Byrne, Matt Fagerson, Rory Darge, Caelan Doris, Jamison Gibson Park, Finn Russell, James Lowe, Bundy Aki, Hugh Jones, Mac Hansen, Blair Kinghorn.
It's a good team.
It's a good team.
That is a good
That
team.
is a good team.
And you could see that, team potentially changing in a number of
In
positions.
about 2 minutes' time.
Well, that, but certainly after a game of the Six Nations, that might be, let's do it again then.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting. I never thought we'd finish this show with a Scotland-Ireland hybrid 15.
Thanks for all the notice, by the way.
That's all right.
And that's your creativity.
You're at your best when it's...
That's Phil's best bits.
When it's not thought about. I think we should start the campaign for the centenary fixture. We need games like that now that sort of reinvigorate and re-energise. And imagine you play, how many games? You play 3 Tet. Why not play 4? 1 in each of the major stadiums.
Might be fun.
How good.
Yeah.
How good would that be?
That'd be great. I'm on board, Al.
Good. Right, we've got a couple of bits and bobs to do. Black Eye is an award-winning gin, if you haven't heard it by now. Joe, we were advertising in the Principality the other weekend.
I saw that.
Did you see it?
Oh, I did see it as well.
Yeah.
I saw it, yeah.
And Gloucester now.
And Gloucester.
There we
It's
go,
with
the official gin of
part
Gloucester.
The two gin capitals of the
There
UK.
we go, yeah. Nothing like the shed
Oh,
heads
the
on
shed
the Gloucester. Oh, not on gin.
No mixer needed.
Flipping out. I know. It's like moonshine back there. We can't make it strong enough. Anyone you want to send a bottle to this
I'll
week?
tell you can send one to Andy Farrell. Wish him well for the Lions post. Oh, that'll be for next week, will it?
Yeah, that'll be for next week. We'll send one to Andy Farrell next
We should
week.
send one to Jacqueline, Sione's granny.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Duty
great.
free.
Imagine she would like a
Yes.
cheeky little gin.
A wee nip on the way
Yeah,
home.
great.
Exactly.
That's quite a challenging address to dig out, but we'll
Well,
do our
she
very
may- she may
best.
not
It's
be on her way
exactly
back
care
yet.
of Murrayfield. What?
She may not be on her way back.
What do we
yet.
send one to? We'll send one to we'll send 2 to Sione Tuapolotu, and one for him and one for his granny. That was a really nice moment. It's shades of Mrs. Underwood
Yeah, it was
from
nice.
yesteryear. Black Eye Gin is an award-winning gin that combines botanicals from each of the leading rugby nations. A core mission to support the future of our game. £1.50 from each bottle sold funds 3 key categories: risk, research, and recovery for past and present rugby players. The plan is for Black Eye to become one of the biggest donors to rugby-related causes within 5 years. So swap a beer for a gin and tonic and help the game you love. We're available Amazon, Ocado, Master of Malt, and Waitrose Cellar, with more listings to be announced soon. Sione, enjoy your gin. Remember our brand new book, The Good, The Bad, and The Rugby Unleashed, is out now. The perfect Christmas gift, I'm told. You can order your copy now from Amazon and all your favourite bookstores. And apparently we're doing a book signing at Waterstone's Leadenhall Market on Wednesday. So if you're listening to this on the way in the work, 12:30 and 2 o'clock, we're at Waterstone's Leadenhall Market. Come and find us. The Sevens season kicks off in Dubai this Friday, and we have a live pub show previewing the season with new head coach Giselle Mather. Keep an eye out for that on Spotify. Sevens Team GB need a little bit of love, so do tune into that and send them all best wishes as they head to Dubai. And this weekend on TNT Sports and Discovery Plus on Saturday, it is Ireland against Australia, and the winner will be
Ireland
by
10.
Ireland by 15.
Ireland by 15. The Australian comeback, not quite the comeback that it looked like after.
Not all the way
Cardiff.
back.
Not all the way back. Still a bit of work to be done. Quite good to see Joe Schmidt working miracles again, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not unsurprising either. I know he took a lot of flack right at the end of his Ireland career, but I've told you this before. My experience with Joe Schmidt was that he is a remarkable coach. Remarkable.
Thank you, guys. It was really good fun.
Yeah,
really
thanks.
enjoyable and very interesting times for both Ireland and Scotland. We'll talk a lot more about them, of course, in the build-up to the Guinness Six Nations after the turn of the year. That is a wrap for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to The Good, The Bad, and The Rugby in partnership, as always, with Continental Tires, our go-to for premium tyres. Whether on the rugby field or the road, safety always comes first. And also, unlike this show, Continental Tires are award-winning. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us on social media for the latest rugby updates. We're a folding pocket production, stats and facts provided by Oval Insight. And this episode was produced by Tom Edwards. Have a great rest of your week. Bye for now.
You've been listening to The Good, Yay, The Bad, and The Rugby, Oof, with Alex Payne, James Haskell, and Mike Tyndall. Thanks for listening.